Stop there, Black Princess!
The handcuffs are cutting into my wrists, and Officer Martinez just whispered something so vile, so disgusting. "See that sexy black ass?" The officer said as he cuffed me and spanked my ass. "You're injuring my wrist. It's too tight. Take it easy if you're not going to believe any single thing I say." Instead of him to pay attention to what I was saying, the fucking officer spanked my ass again. "My name is Ophelia Winterbourne. Yes, that's my real name, even if they didn't believe me. And yes, I'm about to tell you a story that will shock you about justice in America, especially if you are black-skinned like me. If this story shocks you, if it makes you angry, hit that subscribe button right now because trust me, you haven't heard anything yet. 3 years ago, I was living what most people would call the American dream. I'm a black woman, born in London, raised in Toronto, educated at Oxford, and somehow, against all odds, I'd become the youngest female general in the United States Army at 32 years old. I was engaged to tech billionaire Cassius Ashworth, worth $4.2 billion, and living in his family's estate in the affluent suburbs of Connecticut. But let me tell you something. Dreams have a way of becoming nightmares real quick. It was March 15th, 2021. I remember the date because it changed everything. I was driving home from Fort Hamilton at 11:30 p.m. after a classified briefing that had run late. I'd changed out of my uniform into civilian clothes, jeans, a simple black sweater, nothing fancy. I was tired, thinking about Cassius, about our wedding plan for that summer, about how his mother, Vivienne Ashworth, still looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her Louboutin heel. That's when I hit the checkpoint. Now, before I continue, and this is important, let me ask you something. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you in the US, Canada, UK, Australia? Because what I'm about to tell you happened in America, but discrimination doesn't have borders. I want to hear your stories too. The checkpoint was set up on Millionaires Row. That's what locals called our street because of all the tech executives and old money families living there. Bright flashing lights, 3 police cars, officers stopping every vehicle. It looked official enough. Officer Martinez approached my Bentley. Yes, Cassius had insisted I drive it, with the kind of swagger that screamed trouble. He was maybe 40, stocky, with dead eyes that had already judged me guilty of something. "License and registration," he barked, his flashlight deliberately aimed at my face, blinding me. "Of course, officer." I kept my voice calm, professional. Years of military training had taught me how to handle hostile situations. I reached for my purse slowly, deliberately. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" The question hit me wrong. Not "do you live here?" or "are you visiting someone?" but "what are you doing here?" Like I had no right to exist in that space. "I live here," I replied evenly, handing him my documents. He examined my license with theatrical skepticism, then looked at me, then back at the license, like he was solving some complex puzzle. "Ophelia Winterbourne," he read aloud, butchering the pronunciation. "Where'd you steal this from?" My blood pressure spiked. "Excuse me. This ain't your car, and this sure ain't your license. What's your real name, sweetheart?" I took a breath. "Stay calm," I told myself. "De-escalate. Officer, I'm a United States Army general. My identification is authentic, and this is indeed my vehicle." Martinez burst into laughter, not amused laughter, but the cruel kind that's meant to humiliate. He called over to his partner, Officer Johnson, a younger man with nervous eyes. "Johnson, come here. We got ourselves a comedian. This girl says she's a general." Johnson jogged over, and I noticed how he looked at me, not like Martinez's open hostility, but with something worse, pity mixed with disgust. "Sir," I said, maintaining military bearing despite the rage building in my chest, "I'd like to speak with your supervisor." "Your supervisor?" Martinez mocked in a high-pitched voice. "You hear that, Johnson? Princess here wants to speak to the manager." That's when I made a mistake. I reached into my jacket for my military ID. "Hands where I can see them." Martinez screamed, his hand moving to his weapon. "I'm reaching for my military identification," I said slowly, my hands visible. She's got a gun. Johnson yelled. Before I could react, Martinez had yanked me out of the car. The gravel bit into my knees as I hit the ground, my hands forced behind my back. I'm a United States general, I shouted as the handcuffs clicked into place. Check my credentials. Sure you are, Martinez sneered, his face inches from mine. And I'm the president. You know what you are. You're just another. I can't repeat what he called me on this platform, but it was the vilest racial slur you can imagine, who thinks she's better than she is. If you're feeling angry right now, good. You should be. But trust me, it gets worse. Much worse. And if you want to see justice served, real justice, you need to stay with me until the end. Hit that like button if you're ready for this ride. Johnson was searching my car now, tossing everything out, my briefcase, my purse, classified documents scattering across the road. What do we have here? Martinez picked up my military ID, studying it with mock fascination. This is some high-quality fake work. Where'd you get this made? One of those shops in Chinatown. That's a federal document, I said through gritted teeth. Tampering with it is a felony. Oh, she knows big words too. Martinez showed the ID to Johnson. Look at this craftsmanship. General Ophelia Winterbourne. Even gave herself a fancy white lady name. My vision blurred with rage. Not at the name comment, I'd heard that my whole life. But at the systematic way they were dismantling my identity, my achievements, my very existence. Officer Martinez, I said, using every ounce of control I had, I'm going to give you one chance to make this right. Call this in. Verify my identity. Before you do something you'll regret for the rest of your very short career. He laughed again. Is that a threat? No, I replied quietly. It's a promise. That's when things took a turn I still have nightmares about. Martinez leaned down, his breath hot against my ear, and whispered something so disgusting, so degrading, that I can't repeat it even in the comments. But it involved what he thought I was really good for and what he planned to do about it. Johnson looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Just stood there. Complicit. Now here's the thing, Martinez continued, his hand moving places it had no right to be. Uppity girls like you need to learn respect. And we're gonna teach you. That's when I smiled. Already did, I said softly. Did what? Martinez demanded. Called it in. His face went blank. Called what in? I nodded toward my car, where my Bluetooth was still connected. Voice activation. Military emergency protocol. Pentagon Operations has been listening to this entire conversation. The color drained from his face. That's impossible. You didn't make any calls. Hey Pentagon, I said clearly. Still there. A voice crackled through my car speakers, authoritative, official, unmistakably military. General Winterbourne, this is Colonel Reynolds, Pentagon Operations. We've been monitoring your situation. Are you in immediate physical danger? The silence was deafening. Martinez stumbled backward like he'd been shot. Johnson went completely white. Confirm your status, General, the voice continued. We have your GPS coordinates and are dispatching federal assets to your location. I'm currently restrained by local officers who refuse to verify my credentials, I replied calmly. I've been physically assaulted and threatened. Copy that. Federal response is en route. ETA 3 minutes. You know what's beautiful about karma? It doesn't make appointments. It just shows up. Let me pause here for a second and ask you, are you subscribed yet? Because what happens next is going to blow your mind, and I've got dozens more stories like this one. Real stories. Stories that matter. So if you want to see more of this content, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. The next 3 minutes felt like 3 hours. Martinez was frantically radioing someone, his voice cracking with panic. Johnson had unlocked my handcuffs and was standing as far away from me as possible, like my proximity might implicate him further. General, Johnson stammered. There's been a misunderstanding. No, I cut him off, standing and brushing gravel off my knees. There's been a crime. Multiple crimes. And you stood there and watched. That's when we heard them, the low rumble of heavy vehicles approaching fast. 3 black Hums rounded the corner, followed by 2 federal SUVs, their lights cutting through the night like digital justice. The lead Humvee stopped 10 feet from us. The door opened, and out stepped Colonel Sarah Blackthorne, 6 feet of pure military authority in full dress uniform. "Which one of you idiots arrested a United States general?" she barked. Martinez looked like he was about to vomit. We didn't know." "You didn't know." Colonel Blackthorne's voice could have cut glass. "Or you didn't care. Because General Winterbourne's credentials were right there in your hands." She gestured to federal agents who were already setting up a perimeter. "Officers Martinez and Johnson, you're under federal arrest for assault on a military officer, violation of civil rights under color of authority, and about 6 other charges we'll figure out while you're sitting in a federal holding cell." "Wait." Martinez pulled out his phone. "I need to call someone." "You need to call a lawyer," Colonel Blackthorne replied as agents moved in. But here's where the story takes a turn nobody, including me, saw coming. Martinez's phone call wasn't to a lawyer. It was to someone who made my blood run cold. "Mrs. Ashworth," Martinez said into the phone, "we have a problem." My heart stopped. "Mrs. Ashworth. As in Vivienne Ashworth. As in my fiancé's mother. What did you just say?" I demanded. Martinez realized his mistake too late. The federal agents had him in custody, but I could hear the tinny voice on the other end of the phone before they took it away. "Told you to handle this quietly, Martinez." This was supposed to be a simple harassment stop, not a federal incident. The world tilted sideways. Colonel Blackthorne looked at me with concern. "General, do you know who he was calling?" I couldn't speak. The pieces were falling together in a pattern so ugly, so betraying, that I couldn't process it. The checkpoint wasn't random. Martinez knew exactly who I was. This was planned. And the woman who'd planned it was about to become my mother-in-law. "Now I need you to do something for me. I need you to pause this video and really think about what I just told you. Think about the people you trust most in your life. Think about how it would feel if they betrayed you in the cruelest way possible. And then come back and hit play, because what I discovered next changed everything I thought I knew about love, family, and justice." The FBI investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Turns out, when you assault a general, federal agencies take it personally. Agent Patricia Thornfield was assigned as the lead investigator, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who'd made her career dismantling corruption. She came to see me at Fort Hamilton 2 days after the incident. "General Winterbourne," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk, "what I'm about to tell you is going to be difficult to hear." I braced myself. "The checkpoint where you were stopped. It wasn't official. It was privately funded through a shell company called Billionaireceo Security Services. And the funding source." She paused, consulting her notes, traces back to the Ashworth Family Foundation. The words hit me like a physical blow. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Cassius wouldn't." "Your fiancé's signature isn't on any of the documents," Agent Thornfield said gently. "But his mother's is. All over them." She slid a folder across the desk. Bank records, authorization forms, payment schedules. All bearing Vivienne Ashworth's elegant signature. "This wasn't a random stop, General. This was a coordinated effort to humiliate you, to create a situation that would." She paused again, choosing her words carefully, "demonstrate your unsuitability for their family." I stared at the documents, my hands shaking. "How long?" "The operation started 3 months ago. Right around the time your engagement was announced publicly." 3 months. 3 months of planning to destroy me. "There's more," Agent Thornfield continued. "Martinez has been running these checkpoints for wealthy families across Connecticut, targeting anyone they consider undesirable in their neighborhoods. Minorities, mainly. People who've moved into areas these families consider their exclusive territory." The scope of it was breathtaking. Not just personal, systemic. How many victims? I asked. 47 that we've identified so far. Maybe more. 47 people. 47 individuals humiliated, terrorized, violated. Also wealthy families could maintain their version of neighborhood purity. General, Agent Thornfield leaned forward. We need you to testify. This goes beyond what happened to you. This is about dismantling an entire network of discrimination. I nodded slowly. Whatever you need. But first, I had a conversation to have. I found Cassius in his home office that evening, typing furiously at his computer. He looked up when I entered, and for a moment, his face lit up with that smile that had made me fall in love with him 3 years ago. Darling, how was your day? I heard there was some kind of incident the other night, but Mother said it was just a misunderstanding. Stop. The word came out harder than I intended. His smile faded. Ophelia, what's wrong? I pulled out the FBI file and dropped it on his desk. Documents scattered across his keyboard, his monitor, his perfect organized workspace. Your mother paid crooked cops to assault me. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Cassius picked up one of the documents, his eyes scanning the pages. I watched his face change, confusion, then horror, then something that looked like shame. This can't be real, he whispered. It's all real. The checkpoint, the assault, the systematic targeting of minorities in our neighborhood. Your mother orchestrated all of it. He stood up abruptly, papers falling to the floor. Ophelia, you have to know I had nothing to do with this. Nothing. I would never. Wouldn't you? The question hung in the air like smoke. What do you mean? I mean, did you ever once defend me to her? When she made those comments about my background? When she suggested I wasn't suitable for your family? When she asked if I was really from London or just claiming to be? Cassius opened his mouth, then closed it. I was trying to keep the peace, he said finally. By sacrificing me. That's not how I meant it. But that's how it happened, isn't it? Every time she diminished me, you stayed quiet. Every time she questioned my credentials, my achievements, my worth, you said nothing. Tears were running down my face now, but my voice remained steady. And she took your silence as permission. Permission to escalate. Permission to arrange for me to be brutalized by corrupt cops because maybe, just maybe, if I was humiliated enough, traumatized enough, I'd finally understand that I don't belong in your world. Cassius collapsed back into his chair, his head in his hands. What do you want me to do? He asked, his voice muffled. I want you to choose. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. Me or her, I said simply. Your fiancé or your mother. The woman you claim to love or the woman who tried to have her destroyed. Ophelia, please. She's my mother. I can't just. And there it was. The answer I'd been dreading and expecting in equal measure. I pulled the engagement ring off my finger, a flawless 7-carat diamond that had once represented our future. I placed it gently on top of the FBI documents. You just did choose, I said softly. All right, I need to pause here because I can see some of you in the comments talking about how you would have handled this differently, how you would have fought for your man, how family is complicated. And you're right, family is complicated. But let me ask you this, how many times should love cost you your dignity? How many times should you have to prove your worth to people who've already decided you're worthless? Drop your thoughts in the comments, but more importantly, make sure you're subscribed because this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. The trial started 6 months later. By then, the FBI investigation had uncovered a network of corruption that reached into 3 states and involved 17 police departments. Martinez and Johnson were the small fish. The real targets were the wealthy families who'd been purchasing personalized police harassment. I testified on day 3 of the trial. The courtroom was packed, media, activists, family members of the other 47 victims. I wore my full dress uniform, every medal and ribbon perfectly placed. If they wanted to see a general, they were going to see a general. The prosecutor, District Attorney Rebecca Fairmorn, led me through the events of that night with clinical precision. Every detail, every violation, every moment of degradation was documented for the record. General Winterbourne, D.A. Fairmorn asked, when Officer Martinez made physical contact with you in an inappropriate manner, what was your immediate thought? That this was no longer about a traffic stop, I replied, my voice carrying clearly through the courtroom. This was about sending a message. To me, and to every other person of color who dared to exist in a space where certain people felt we didn't belong. Defense attorney Kenneth Hadley tried to paint me as an angry black woman who'd overreacted to a routine stop. He suggested that my confrontational attitude had escalated the situation unnecessarily. General, he said during cross-examination, isn't it possible that you were, perhaps, overly sensitive to what you perceived as racial bias? I looked at him for a long moment, then at the jury, then back at him. Mr. Hadley, in my 20-year military career, I've served in combat zones where enemy combatants have treated me with more dignity than Officers Martinez and Johnson did that night. So no, I don't think I was overly sensitive. I think they were overly criminal. The courtroom erupted in applause. The judge had to bang his gavel for order. But the most devastating testimony came from an unexpected source. Cassius took the stand on day 7. He looked older than when I'd left him. Thinner, grayer, worn down by the weight of his family's crimes. He avoided eye contact with me as D.A. Fairmorn questioned him. Mr. Ashworth, were you aware of your mother's payments to billionaireceo security services? No, Were you aware that she had expressed concerns about your relationship with General Winterbourne? A pause. Yes. Can you describe those concerns? Another pause, longer this time. She felt that Ophelia, General Winterbourne, wasn't compatible with our family's social position. And how did she express these concerns? Cassius' voice dropped to almost a whisper. She said that certain types of people could never really understand our world. That they would always be pretending to be something they weren't. And what did you say in response? The longest pause yet. When Cassius finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. Nothing. I said nothing. D.A. Fairmorn let that hang in the air for a moment. Mr. Ashworth, your mother arranged for a United States general to be assaulted by corrupt police officers. She funded a systematic campaign of racial harassment. She violated federal laws and human dignity in an attempt to destroy your relationship. And when she expressed the views that led to these crimes, you said, nothing. I was trying to keep the peace. Whose peace, Mr. Ashworth? Because it certainly wasn't General Winterbourne's. For the first time since taking the stand, Cassius looked at me. His eyes were filled with regret, with pain, with all the words he should have said but never did. I failed her, he said simply. I failed the woman I claimed to love because I was too much of a coward to stand up to my own mother. And that, more than any guilty verdict, felt like justice. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Martinez got 15 years in federal prison. Johnson got 12. The 17 police officers involved in the broader conspiracy received sentences ranging from 3 to 20 years. But the real victory was what came after. The Winterbourne Act, named after yours truly, passed Congress with bipartisan support 8 months later. It mandates federal oversight of all police checkpoint operations, requires body cameras during every traffic stop, and establishes severe penalties for law enforcement officers who abuse their authority to target minorities. 47 victims received federal settlements totaling $127 million. More importantly, they received acknowledgement that what happened to them was wrong, criminal, and would never be tolerated again. Vivienne Ashworth was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison for conspiracy and civil rights violations. Her foundation was dissolved, her assets frozen, her reputation destroyed. And Cassius. He showed up at my apartment 3 weeks after the trial ended. I almost didn't answer the door. I left the family business, he said when I finally opened it. I'm selling everything. The house, the cars, the investments, all of it. I'm donating the proceeds to civil rights organizations. I looked at him standing there in jeans and a simple shirt instead of his usual designer suits. He looked smaller somehow, more human. That doesn't fix what you didn't do, I said quietly. I know. But it's a start. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. This isn't what you think, he said quickly. It's not the engagement ring. That belongs to a different person, a different version of us that never should have existed. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band with an inscription, "For the courage I should have had." "I don't want you back," he continued. "I don't deserve you back. But I want you to know that I finally understand what love actually means. It means standing up. It means speaking out. It means choosing your partner over everyone else, every single time." I took the ring, studying the inscription. "It's beautiful," I said. "But you're right, I don't want you back." He nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know. But maybe someday, you can forgive me. Not for us, but for you. So you don't have to carry that anger forever." I closed the ring box and handed it back to him. "Cassius, I forgave you the day I walked away. Not because you deserved it, but because I deserved peace." He smiled then, not the charming smile I'd fallen in love with, but something sadder and more genuine. "Be happy, Ophelia. Be gloriously, magnificently happy. You've earned it. And you know what? I'm now a 4-star general, the highest-ranking black woman in Army history. I've established the Winterbourne Foundation, which provides legal assistance to victims of police discrimination. I've written a best-selling memoir. I've spoken at the United Nations about systemic racism in law enforcement. And yes, I've found love again, with someone who sees my strength as beautiful, not threatening. Someone who stands up for me every single time, in every situation, without being asked. Dr. Imogen Hartwell is a human rights lawyer from Melbourne who moved to DC to work on police reform legislation. She's brilliant, fearless, and the first time someone made a comment about our interracial relationship, she shut it down so quickly and so thoroughly that I fell a little bit more in love with her right there. But here's what I want you to understand, what I need you to take away from this story. They tried to break me at that checkpoint. They tried to humiliate me, diminish me, make me question my worth and my place in this world. They failed. Not because I'm stronger than other people, but because I refused to accept their definition of who I was supposed to be. Because I had allies who stood up when it mattered. Because I used the system, the very system they thought would protect them, to hold them accountable. Your voice matters. Your story matters. Your refusal to accept discrimination matters. If my story resonated with you, if it made you angry, if it made you want to fight for justice, then I need you to do 3 things right now. First, subscribe to this channel. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because there are more stories like this one. Stories that need to be told. Voices that need to be heard. Second, tell me in the comments where you're watching from and share your own experiences with discrimination. Let's build a community of people who refuse to stay silent. And third, share this video. Share it with your friends, your family, your co-workers. Share it with people who need to hear that justice is possible, that standing up works, that their worth isn't determined by other people's prejudices. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. When we stand together, when we refuse to be silent, when we demand better, we win. Every single time. My name is General Ophelia Winterbourne, and this is my story of how one phone call to the Pentagon changed everything. But more than that, this is a story about the power of refusing to be small, the importance of having allies who will stand up, and the absolute necessity of using whatever privilege and platform you have to lift others up. The fight isn't over. It's never over. But we're winning, one story at a time, one voice at a time, one person at a time who decides they won't accept injustice anymore. Subscribe if you believe in that fight. Share if you want to be part of it. And remember, your voice has power. Use it. Justice delayed is justice denied, but justice demanded is justice delivered. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being part of the solution. Now go out there and change the world. Don't forget that your subscription means a whole lot of support to us.